Now, viewers, it's very interesting. Something is happening. Something is really cooking. My brother, Ato Forson, is headed for the presidency. Can you imagine that? Fantastic. Now, a survey that we have seen shows that Ato Forson could be in pole position to be one of the presidential flag bearers for the NDC for the 2028 election. Now, where did this come about? This is coming about as a result of what is thought to be Ato Forson's super performance as Minister for Finance, picking up dollar in the very beautiful way now. Still, the dollar is at 10, something like that. So, Ato Forson and some of his supporters are pushing him to run for the presidency. He's going to have a very hot contest against seasoned men and women of the party. Ato Forson, I know a little bit. I know him from his work in Parliament. He used to be a Deputy Minister of Defense as well. But here's the catch. Ato Forson will be competing, if this works, with the Honorable Julius Deborah. I don't know well. I never really did know him. Let me see what Adom-Otchere is here. Haruna Idrisu is here too. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, I like this one. So, Ato Forson is in there. Johnson Adom-Otchere, the obvious front runner, chairman of the party, great NDC person, somebody I know quite well because we're neighbors in Sakumono. So I know him. I'm going to talk about him tonight. Julius Deborah, I don't know that well. And I've been asking myself that, how don't I know him? And I got the answer. You see, Julius Deborah has never been connected to the communication part of the NDC from way back. He's actually been connected to the deep side of the NDC in the cadres. Those who are working really down the roots, that's where he's been. He's gone to Cuba and all that. He's a proper cadre of the party. So those of us who are media people and journalists, news reporters, we have been connected to the NDC talking sides. Ototo Bikwachi, Kojo Yanka, Kwame Pepra, the people who do communication, Rawlings himself, and then Adom-Otchere, of course, and others. So I've noticed that Johnson Adom-Otchere is sort of picking up a new image for himself. You know who he is already. Johnson Adom-Otchere is also like cadre in there. And he was a member of parliament, and sometimes he makes people laugh and all that. But he's a very deep thinker. I've noticed that he's trying to pick up a middle-class socialist leadership image. I think he wants to use that to help his political agenda. He knows that from where he's coming, there are not many middle-class supporters. So look at him here. Look at the way he's dressed. He's dressed like Chairman Mao. He's capturing himself in the leadership of the Communist Party of old, leadership of a socialist movement. You know, instead of being in cloth at a funeral like this at the big Akan, he's wearing this communisto, beautifully done political suit. He has his nice spectacles. And you see that Adom-Otchere is changing his image. He's trying to get the image of a kind of middle-class person who is also grounded to the roots. And he's hoping that with that, he can collect 100% of the votes. So this is not the Johnson Adom-Otchere you knew of 20 years ago. This is the Johnson Adom-Otchere who is ready for a presidential contest. You can see that. There you go. This is Johnson Adom-Otchere who is capturing himself in a really different mode. There you see him going that way. So the Honorable Johnson Adom-Otchere is preparing and packaging his image. Now, if he secures the support of Fifi Kwete, that's going to be very, very, very solid. But Ato Forson is why we are talking about this. I'll come back to that. Julius Deborah, I don't know. I'm not engaged with him. But how did I know? So I knew of a story that when Professor Mills was president, there was some guy who they said was very close to the NDC, very close to Mills, very formidable within the NDC. That Professor Mills didn't give a job to, the days of David Lamte. Those who know David Lamte will know, may he rest in peace. The days of David Lamte, I heard all of those stories. That there was this guy who was very powerful, very close to Mills, and Mills struggled to exclude him from the government. And everyone was talking about how well he has taken it. I didn't get the name of the person at that time. I only found out last month, in July, when the chief of staff was addressing the Mills event. And then he said the same story I had known, but I didn't know who the story was about. And he said the story was about himself. And I said, so this is Julius Deborah. Listen to the story when he talked at the Mills event. Listen.
A personal experience with you. So one day I got a call from Uncle Beba Kumensa, who said, Julius, Prof, the Adom-Otchere Eastern Region as regional minister, Etifao CV Bremi. Then I went to see Uncle Beb with my CV. Now, there was supposed to be an announcement on one particular day after the independence celebration. So I was so excited. I had dressed in my white, seated on my bed, waiting for the announcement. Unfortunately, when the announcement came, my name was omitted. I felt very sad. Then, to my surprise and amazement, if a president tells you he will do something for you, and for a reason or two he's not able to do it, I don't think he owes you an apology. One morning, my phone rang, and when I picked it, it was Honorable Sam Atamers. So I picked it as Uncle Sam and said, Julius, hold on for the president. I said, yes, sir. And Prof was like, Julius, today I didn't know how pa. And I said, oh, but I'm married, sir. I said, Julius, most your band, no, I won't continue to be a better mercy. And that's why I drop your name. And today, I still think about it. Does the president owe an ordinary person like me an apology?
That was the story. So I had heard this story then in 2009 that Prof had bound somebody in Eastern Region, is a very important person, blah, blah, blah. So just this July, when the chief of staff spoke, I said, oh, so this is the Julius Deborah. Da, da, da. Okay, I get it. It was making sense to me. Then I felt that, hey, if that is so, this NDC succession race is going to be tough. Really, really tough. And if you look at the history, let me just say this very quickly and I move on. They are giving me the time. If you look at the history, this will be the first time that the NDC is going into a real presidential contest. Never gone to it before. Since 92. So let's look at it. 92, J.J. Rawlings. 2000, Atta Mills, no contest. Atta Mills did a few contests, but he was winning by 80-something%. It was obvious that Atta Mills was going to win against Eddie Annan. Atta Mills was going to win against Spio Gabra in the two instances. And then came President Mahama. Vice President became president, no contest. President Mahama ran the second term, no contest. And President Mahama became opposition leader. 2020's elections, 2018, he won by 90%, no contest. President Mahama won again for 2024, 90%, no contest. This is the first and only time the NDC is going to have a real contest for succession of leadership. Never happened. Check the MPP. 1992, there was a contest. Professor Dubois had to struggle for it. 1996, big contest. John Ajekun Kufuor had to struggle for it. 1998, big contest. Akufo-Addo Kufuor had to struggle for 98 was one of the biggest contests. After that, no contest. Kufuor becomes president. Second term, no contest. 2007, huge one. They couldn't even get a regular winner from the first round. Akufo-Addo won, but he didn't cross. And then Alanche Martin said, no problem, he's my senior brother, let's go on. After that, no contest, no contest. The next contest they had, 2024, Bawumia and Kennedy, tight. Bawumia goes through so many conversations. So that's the MPP has had about 3 or 4 real contests. The NDC has never had one. This is the first time they are going to have a real contest. Look at the political history, and I'm going to write something about it in a book very, very soon. So this is Julius Deborah. So I now know who Julius Deborah is. Okay, because I don't really know him. So, but Johnson, I said, look at it. We used to have Sunday morning conversations in Sakumon. I know him quite well. I know some of his family. I know them. Okay. So, Ato Forson is now also in the race. Talk of Julius Deborah again. Viewers, something struck me when on the day that we were all dying and we were waiting for the announcement. And you know, as a communication, I always said, I love Felix Kwachilfosu, not because he's of anything, because of the work he does. And I feel for all of these people, Kojo Pong Kroma, all those people who do that kind of work. It's very, very difficult. So when the thing happened, I was saying, yay, how is Felix and Shamima going to manage this thing? What? That's how I felt. And I said, I don't talk to Felix. I would have called him and said, Chief, Charlie, you have to take heart to this thing. You have to manage it well. The announcement, you have to do it. But I don't think he'll pick my call. I don't know. If it's Standowe, maybe I could have called him. But I knew this is not Stan's schedule. But I was thinking that So when the boys told me that Charlie, government is going to have and make the announcement, I was just, already Jesus. Felix is, I hope he will manage it. Then I looked at the announcement and here was Chief of Staff. And my goodness, this guy was majestic. The way he delivered the announcement. And later on, I saw the Ways of TV video that Standowe put together. And I noticed that he had been crying before he came to do the announcement. If you watch the Ways of TV video, You saw that when he broke down, he was crying before he did the announcement, not to remind anybody of pain. But viewers, look at this announcement again and look at the power and authority for a man who was crying that he delivered this to the nation. Have a look.
I have the unpleasant duty, sadly, to announce a national tragedy involving the crash of a military helicopter this morning around the Adansi area in Ashanti region. Government regrets to announce the demise of the following persons in the tragic crash. Dr. Edward Kofi Omane-Boamah, Minister for Defense. Alhaji Dr. Ibrahim Murtala Muhammad, MP, Minister for Environment, Science and Technology. Alhaji Muniru Mohammed Lemonad, Acting Deputy National Security Coordinator and former Minister for Food and Agriculture. Dr. Samuel Sapon, Vice Chairman of the National Democratic Congress. And Mr. Samuel Abuaji, a former parliamentary candidate. Squadron Leader Peter Bafemi Anala, Flying Officer Manin Chum Ampedu, and Sergeant Ernest Ado Mensah. And government extends our condolences and sympathies to the families of our comrades and the servicemen who died in service to the country. All flags are to fly at half-mast until further notice. Thank you.